So where'd you start, and how did you transition eventually to running it?
Well, if anybody's run like a family business, it's a gift and a curse. So I worked my way up. I mean, I cut grass in high school. I think I started working with them, taking apart old mowers and fixing equipment when I was a kid. And I didn't really aspire to work for my dad. He was a really hard guy to work for. He was a good guy, but he was hard to work for. So I started doing auto repair, and so I got into mechanics and doing that kind of stuff. And so, I worked with my dad off and on, and helped him out when I could. And then when I was about 25, we found out my wife was pregnant. We were dating at the time, and so I needed to really get my stuff together and get a career going. So my dad coincidentally had a fleet mechanic quit. So I started working for him and really just didn't have any aspiration to help him other than just do a job and just work for him. And so I maintained his fleet, did all the mowers, and we have, at the time, we did a lot of different work. We had design, build, maintenance, snow, and so there was about, a fair amount of work to do. And then my dad got sick right around when the housing market crashed in 08, 09. And so he had no transition plan in place. And at that point, I was, this is what I was doing, and so I wasn't going to let anybody else buy the company. So I was definitely unqualified to buy it at the time. I don't think anybody in their right mind would have sold me or my brother the company. You know what I mean? So, I'm not formally educated. I have a pretty colorful background. So, but I was able to just work my way up, and I had some really good teachers. And I, really right around the same time, I went to you get these partner emails from Lawn and Landscape magazine, on your emails, and I usually delete them, but I got one from Mike, and I was Build a Better Workshop, and so I clicked on it, and I went and found out how little I knew, and I actually couldn't build a budget. Our P&Ls were so, messed up. So it was I was like, hey man, can I get some help? And Mike's like, good luck with that, man. Come back to another one. So it was, so that's how I got in, and I really got in. I actually called a consultant before. I called a consultant to find out really if we could sell the company, because I knew that it was losing money. I knew, and my dad was one of those guys that is a true owner-operator. He's not asking for help. He wants to do everything. And he was sick. My dad's got an autoimmune condition, and he really struggled for a long time. And during that process, we really needed to transition out. And so I called a consultant, and when he told me, he was on the phone, he was like, the only reason you want to sell it is because you're not making money. So let's figure out how you can make money and do it. And so I was like, all right, man, I can only go up at this point, So we hired him in, and he wanted to stay on a retainer, but when you're losing money, you can't really pay anybody else to help you out. So we took his advice, got a lot of constructive criticism, and went to a workshop and just, did a lot of work, man, so.
What do you think if you can think back that far, right after the workshop in those couple of months, what did you most take away from that, and what did you most sort of set out to do in the short term, medium term, and even long term, and what you needed to fix?
Well, definitely our financials. That was actually the biggest criticism we got from the consultant, was how poor our financial knowledge was. And it's interesting, a lot of the stuff that Jason had talked about, I really resonated with, because I'm a big reader, and so I just read a lot, and I got a lot of books, and there's all kinds of books you can read. So, and I started to educate myself on just the way that business operated. And I think that what I took away from the workshop was, I think what LMN did was provide a blueprint, and that's what I was really looking for, as opposed to features. They brought a mindset that I could relate to, and they were successful at it. And so for me, I looked definitely from a financial perspective. I needed to fix the P&L. So I went back to the first 6 months, and I worked with my accountant. I spent a lot of money working with my accountant trying to reclassify our QuickBooks, just so I could get history. And we didn't know where we were losing money. Our sales item, even though we had 4 or 5 different divisions, was a one line item. Our payroll was one line item. When we did the labor budget and it's like break down your payroll. I had no idea how to do that. I was like asking I was like, how do I do this? Like your payroll, your P&L looks different than mine. So that was the biggest thing initially, was we know we're not doing well because everybody's stressed about making money. We had a lot of staff. We had, 4 or 5 managers. We had like close to 50 people on the payroll. But we were, and really, from my perspective, I hadn't built it from the ground up. So I always tell people that I kind of envy people that have been able to build their business from scratch and make the mistakes and learn from them. Like I came into a business that was already supposed to be successful after 30 some years. And it wasn't, it was to a point, and then it hit a position where it just wasn't turning anymore. So we really needed to figure out where, and so the P&L was so really organizing our financials, organizing, where money was going and tracking things like that was probably the biggest physical thing that we changed within the company.
Any big surprises? Or was it stuff you mostly knew, or?
I think it confirmed. So we did design build, and one of the things we figured out was there was other parts of the company that were carrying other divisions. So design build had about 12 people that were responsible or were involved at field staff and office staff, and we weren't even breaking even covering that cost just to pay those people. So we did, and really there was I didn't understand the estimating process. I could tell you up front, I couldn't estimate anything. I still to this day, I don't know how to estimate a property. It's not where my strength is. So, but looking at that, I can follow numbers, and when you follow the money, you can see where it's going. And so we had to make a decision up front. So when I bought the company, I gave the people that were there a year to work and fix it. And they didn't, so they all left, not by choice, So that was like a tough decision. There's a lot of these people I grew up with. My dad had people working with him for 25 years, and I had to be the one to tell them that they weren't getting the picture. And I gave them ample time. And I got sick to my stomach before I had to let them go. I mean, the night before, it was terrible.
Sure.
Anybody that's comfortable with that is, I would question that,
Yeah.
So I'm not down with that. I feel bad, man. These are people's livelihoods. But at the same time, 10 times out of 10, if the decision's about whether or not my kids are going to benefit or their kids, my kids are going to win every time. So, and I think that's really kind of what it had to be. And it's unfortunate, but you give people you try to empower people, and if they aren't willing, if they don't have any skin in the game and they don't want to do anything, they can waste somebody else's time.
How long do you think that set you back, losing those people sort of all at once, and how long did it take to sort of rebuild that portion?
Well, we're still rebuilding it. That's one of the things. So even though we were losing money, it was revenue that was coming in. And so even though that we had a lot of, there were certain things that we didn't see by taking out certain business. So as we've kind of refined the business over the years, we've looked at our service area and looked at density. And we've looked at, when we've taken out a certain amount of work, what changed about that we didn't see, like our unbillable time and, windshield time and things like that. And so we're still rebuilding that. And when we took the revenue stream out of there, all we do is maintenance and snow at this point. So maintenance is different than design build. We don't have a lot of materials you can make up. So you're making your money on your labor, which is difficult. One of the things I think that attracted me to the LMN mindset really was empowering your employees and incentivizing them. But when you're dealing with maintenance, if it takes 20 minutes to mow a lawn or to put down a fertilizer app, that's really what it is. There's really not I don't want the guys running behind the mower. I don't want the guys doing a bad job. So we had to really know what we needed to charge and know, really where we can make that as efficient as possible, because we didn't have a lot of materials that could, kind of backfill or other revenue streams to do that. So we're in the process of doing that. I think we're now just increasing sales and whatnot. So, but I'd say it was an immediate fix in terms of we stopped the hemorrhaging rapidly. So that was less than a year. That was an immediate, change. But in terms of overall, in terms of what the company grosses, we are still building that back up. So we do less money now than we did when I bought the company. But I'd rather do less money with a higher profit than gross more. I just think that from what I found is that you know, a lot of people having a large company it can be a lot of headache. And for me personally, it just wasn't a goal. You know, I wanted to be profitable, and I could be profitable doing $500,000 a year. You know, I'd rather do, you know, 20% at $500,000 than, you know, 2% at $1 million. You know what I mean? So
For sure.
that's just the way that I'm at. So, and a lot of people are different. Like, and I think success is subjective to whatever it is that you want to do. But I think as owners, you put a lot of time in, and you should pay yourself for it.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So.
Okay, so since you went there as well, let's dive into that a bit. So obviously, or if we can extrapolate from what you're saying, you have this maintenance division that's sort of hemorrhaging. You go in, you learn your numbers. That generally means, okay, our numbers aren't right. Sometimes it's speed, but like you say, if your guys know how to cut a lawn, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. So usually it's pricing. We got to go back and reprice a bunch of stuff. Tell us a bit about that process. What did you find with your pricing? And maybe start to share with us a little bit about how you transitioned your customers from a hemorrhaging model into a profitable model.
Yeah, no, we so I think something you guys got to understand is that when you buy a company or you're taking over somebody else's vision. And so with an established company like my dad's, we had an established client base that was really comfortable with the way things were. And it was great for them, and it was really bad for us. Like, I don't think that my dad had raised prices in like a decade. You know what I mean? So one of the things that knowing our numbers, I feel like, you know, I think everything that what Jason said was like right on the money. And I didn't do a budget either. And one of the things that doing a budget did was knowing my numbers, I think fostered creativity, because I don't really feel that I'm in competition with anybody else. I feel like our industry as a whole, like we're more peers than competition. I think that if I know what I need to charge, then if I do a better job than someone else in my area, then I'm deserve to get the work. It has nothing to do with whether or not they're a bad company. I'm different. So if someone can charge lower because they run their business tighter, then kudos to them. They're going to get the work. You know what I mean? But so I changed. Knowing my numbers helped me to, instead of selling myself on the price, we were selling value. So this is what working for my company does, or working with us is about. This is what the value we bring. If you don't find value in that, then, you know, there's plenty of other people to choose from. So when we looked at that, and we decided, and we were kind of going in there with that framework, mowing is generally just not profitable, okay? People drop you for $5 a cut, you know what I mean? So if it rains, like, you didn't cut me this week, and it's all this ridiculous conversation. So actually, was that a conversation I had with Mike at one of the workshops afterwards? We were talking about a guy in the trucking industry. I think he told a story that he was like, apparently trucking is like notoriously not profitable.
It's tight, right?
So, but he would drop clients if they weren't at a profit margin. So what we did, because we really couldn't make mowing profitable by itself, what we did was we combined mowing and turf care. And so we marketed it as growing grass as one thing, mowing is a part of growing grass. So we tacked on, we only took clients that had mowing and a turf care program. And what that did was allow us to market materials, which is one of the only areas we could market materials. And we also sold it on the fact that their lawn was going to look better because we were treating the entire environment. And so it also allowed my guys, instead of having work from April to the end of October where we're at, we had started in March doing turf care applications and ended in December. So for us, it was 10 months, okay? And we sold them on the idea that, and really it's not an idea, it's a fact, that, you know, growing grass is a right way and a wrong way to do it. And so we had a lot of different programs based on budget, and so we cut all that out, and we have one program, and it's not optional for anybody to do it. So they have to do what we do. So, and we had a lot of people that were really upset when we made that policy change. So we, you know, we got crucified online. I swear, man, like, you know, it's like recreational outrage with the review process. You know what I mean? Like, so people don't like you, and they're like, let me go run my mouth about something, you can't respond. So, so we dealt with that, and it was tough, man. Like, I had a lot of people being like, you know, Paul's sons are greedy, and they're ripping you off, and Don't give them your business. And we lost a lot of business, but in all honesty, it was all crap, you know? So it was mowing only. It was like people were dropping, you know, $30 a cut, and that's all they were doing. They were giving their maintenance, you know, their bed maintenance to another company. So, you know, I'm not in, like, I think the biggest mistake is that everybody's a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people are in a race, you know, to the bottom, and the worst thing you could do is win the race. So I wanted to change that, and I didn't really care who came with me. So I did lose a lot of clients in the process having that mindset, but you know, it hasn't hurt us. In fact, now we get people that want to do business with us because that's what we do.
It's awesome.
Because so it's, you know, for us, we had to kind of put that in place. So that was one thing. The second thing was labor. We had 3-man crews. We run 2-man crews for mowing. So especially when you're doing small lawns, I mean, there's always a guy staying around. So I lost a little bit in terms of productivity, in terms of how many lawns they were doing a day, but you know, in terms of like unbillable time for a third guy, it's literally like having a fourth guy in the truck that doesn't do anything. So, you know, you just really have to look at your math and, you know, look at your area and look at your unbillable time and things like that. So we tracked a lot of that. I tracked the way that I have my time set up is different. Like I've been on the phone with you and a lot of the people at LMN, and I have a pretty detailed job set up in terms of what I track and how I track it. So that helped us get an idea. And so now this year what we did, we have 2 different labor rates. So we have a labor rate for a dense area, and we have a labor rate for areas that we're thin at. And it's more expensive if we don't have any business. And the way that I tell my clients, and I don't tell it actually, like I can't talk to customers at this point in my career. I work with my people. I have other people that are just better at delivering the message. So, but the idea is I know that other people have other companies in their neighborhood. So if they want us to get a better labor rate, then talk to your friends. So like Jason said, referrals, a referral is 100% sale. It's guaranteed. So if they have a neighbor, let them do the work for you. And so that's how we've been able to grow it like that. So
Very cool. Very cool.
So there's a lot of moving parts there, you know.
If you had a piece of advice for somebody getting into the maintenance business and a piece of advice for somebody who has an established maintenance business, so 2 different pieces of advice, what would those 2 pieces be? And then we can.
I think the first step really is to get honest with yourself. And I think I would say that for both people. I think that's the step to success. Like for me, I had to really get honest with what I was good at and what I was not good at. And so that was the first thing. Like I think that really like understanding and not being afraid of what you're looking at. Like there are some difficult decisions that people are going to have to make, and you have to be willing to make those decisions. They're not comfortable, but if you want to grow, you have to make them. So that'd be the first thing, is just be honest with yourself. The second thing is to get mentors around you, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So I didn't have a problem with that. You know, I don't claim to know everything. I don't know everything now, and I've just been blessed with really sharp guys that have been willing to speak truth to me, and that's just invaluable. So if you don't have a mentor, I would get it. You know, I would get one. So.
Very last question then. So prices have raised, crews are tighter, a little more efficient. Very last thing. What one change or maybe a couple of changes did you make when selling new clients on this more expensive? How intimidating was that, first of all, to go up in price significantly sometimes? And what did you do, or how do you find yourself different in the sales process to be able to close clients at that higher price?
Well, I think, you know, what Jason said about being unique, that's really what makes us unique. We like a lot of people are come to us before and would say, this is what I want to do. And then, you know, for us, we have just a way that we operate, and if it doesn't line up with the way that we operate, then they're not a good fit. So I think getting good at saying no to the wrong work is critical. So I don't think that, you know, when my dad started, he really had to he took everything. So he took any work that he could. I mean, he was building the business. Again, I don't have that perspective, so I lack that. So I'm not saying that that's not a necessary part of the business or building a business at some point. I can't say that's the same for us. I can definitely say at this point though, your client, like who your client is paramount to whether or not you're going to have a great company or not. Because if you're spending your time, dealing with headaches and ungrateful people that are nickel and diming you, then like, why do you want to do that? I mean, I don't want to do that.
Good call.
So I don't do it. You know what I mean? I'd rather, there are people out there that are willing to invest in your company. That's like, we want the renewal. We don't want to do just one job. Maintenance really is key if you can only retain the business. If you can't retain the business, it's a lot of money to go get a new sale. So I don't want to get new sales. I want to lock in the sale, and I don't want to do it anymore. Like, my goal is to get to a point where I shut the door and I have 100% renewal and I know what my numbers are and I don't look for new business. And people have to beg me to get in. So, because I don't want to chase people that are looking for a deal.
For sure.
So.
For sure. That's awesome stuff.
Cool.
That's very good. We're out of time.
Yeah.
Anybody have any last questions? Just one? We got time for one, and then James will be around for the end. Yep.
You referenced two different labor prices depending on the area they were located in. And when you're basing your prices, are you switching that over to looking at square footage prices on maintenance? Are you pricing it all labor rate hours? And also, do you have a minimum that you set up for smaller accounts?
Yeah. All the numbers that I make are basically off the budget. Okay. And the only thing that I change in terms of the labor rate is my unbillable time. So because I recover all my overhead on field labor, I don't do it on the Moore's method, just by the way we're set up. That's how we've decided to do it. It's all on labor. And so I do price out turf care by square footage, otherwise it's by time. So. No, everybody wants me to do minimums and I don't do it. I think that there's too many variables there. So if it's a minimum, if people want a minimum, then I just do it by the hour. I know that it doesn't matter if I'm there for a half an hour or not. If I charge the right amount of money, it doesn't matter. So.
It's good. It's good. We got to stay on schedule. James, thank you so much. James will be around if you have any last minute questions for him. Thanks again.